Welcome to tonight in our New Earth Living. Flossie will share a little bit to lay a little foundation in what the series is about and kind of how we look at New Earth Living before we move into more specifically what we were going to talk about this evening. In case you didn't know me, I'm Gary, and we are beloveds, and we have the beloved partnership and beloved relationship. So this evening is something very special for us to talk about.
So a while back, Gary and I, years ago, started to talk about a new earth. And what does that look like? And of course, Eckhart Tolle, he helped us a little. But we got so excited and so passionate about it because we knew that we were part of the creation of it. And it means so many different things. But as we said last time, it's about the balance and harmony that we need to create within ourselves and on the planet at this time, and with one another. Now, the thing is that tonight we will be discussing in an hour and a half something that we've decided that we could do a whole week's retreat on. I mean, we are literally just going to touch on some philosophies, but we don't want this to be a lecture. We want this to be a sharing because it's a co-creation. But we both do a lot of spiritual counseling, and I'm not a therapist. But what makes the difference of sitting with someone and doing counseling from this perspective? We look at it from the soul's perspective. And so that's what we look at New Earth Living as. It's not just, okay, I'm going to change the way I do things. I'm going to change all this. It's coming from what is the soul's perspective on my life. And from that perspective, then I can start to design something. So that's the difference of just this between this and all those workshops that are out there about, finding your beloved and all this stuff, because I took them all. It's like that soul's journey. Each one of us is on a journey. And it's so important because that journey is so individual. However, we are creating a collective consciousness as we're on this journey. And we know that we cannot solve the problems by the same consciousness that created the problems. We can't do it. So we must raise our consciousness to a higher state, elevate ourselves, to start to live ourselves from our higher self, the way we were meant to live, as opposed to from our ego that is saying, I've got to protect, defend, and all of that stuff. That's old earth, protect, defend. New earth, balance and harmony. So that's where we come from in that.
So when I told someone that the next New Earth Living that Flossie and I were going to do was about relationships, he looked at me and he said, relationships. I think I have a pretty good spiritual practice until it comes to relationships, and then it all falls apart. Can anybody else relate to that? Because I said, oh, man, yeah. But the interesting thing of it is that a lot of times when you talk about relationships, you immediately go to the beloved relationship, love relationship, that sort of thing. Last time, I mentioned a wonderful man. He was a Trappist monk, a Christian mystic. Thomas Merton was his name. And he said, 2 hours before he died, he said he understood what compassion was. He said compassion to him was the keen awareness of the interrelatedness, interdependency of all living things. Interrelatedness, our relationship with all things. And so relationship isn't just about my love relationship with someone, that special someone in my life, even though that's who we think of. But the hierarchy of it is our relationship with all things. The interesting thing that happens is that, depending upon where we are with our beliefs, behaviors, habits, the rest of it, our relationship with all things are affected differently. I realize that if I was on a deserted desert island in the middle of nowhere and there was one tree and one fly, there was a point in time in my life I'd be thinking that fly was talking about me to the tree. And I'd be concerned about that. You know, because I realize that there is a relationship that exists with everything. And that first and foremost, it's about me really having a sense of what is my relationship beyond that beloved or love relationship or romantic relationship or whatever you want to call it. What is my relationship with other things? So it really struck me when that person said that about, I have this wonderful spiritual practice. And I saw myself, of course, because, you know, all of this isn't about you, it's about me. It's about my sharing my experience and you taking that and creating your own experience from it. Because the answers to all of these questions of relationship and everything else don't lie here. It lies there. You know, and it lies within each one of you. So for me, when he said that, I pictured myself at times going, oh yeah, this is great. I've got this spiritual thing going and I'm really feeling mellow. And then all of a sudden, something happens. You know, something happens. You know, you're walking along and you're going, you know, everything's great, everything's cool, I'm feeling really great about life, I'm feeling very mellow, I can recite mantras, I can do chants, I do my yoga, I've got my practice, I meditate, I've got all of that stuff going, and then bango, something happens. Someone says something, someone does something. Now, the degree to which that someone, the depth of the relationship, oftentimes is the degree to which it impacts me. May not mean that much to me if someone I don't know says something, but all of a sudden as that relationship gets closer and closer and closer, it's someone I'm in relationship with, or a sister, a brother, a sibling, a father, mother, grandfather, somebody at work. All of a sudden, it's like, so what happens? What sends that off? I can be in that place. I've read the books. I've listened to Deepak. Dwayne Dyer's been awesome. I go to all of the stuff. What happens with that? So one of the things I wanted to do was just get a sense of, so you're in this wonderful place of understanding, peaceful, tranquil, all the rest of it, and something happens. If you've experienced that before, that what is it that in relationship that can be upsetting to you, that can maybe take you out of your spiritual practice, your awareness, your calmness? What types of things happen? Because I'd like to do just a little bit of a sharing, and one of the things we want to really make this as interactive as possible is to try and keep things as simple and clear and as pithy as possible. So does anybody have something that they would care to share? What happens to you that might take you out of that space?
When I'm working with someone that maybe is not in a great mood and that I have to be in the space, and it totally throws me off.
Okay.
And just makes me just not very happy.
So energetically somebody's in a bad mood and
yeah, and it's coming at me.
and that affects you.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. That's one of them. Anything else?
Traffic.
Traffic. Okay. Anything else? What else throws you off?
What pulls you out of your bliss?
Disrespect.
Disrespect.
Anything else? Everybody stays pretty calm then with everything going on.
All the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Criticism. Who's yours to yourself or someone to you? Others.
Yeah.
The
computer.
Oh.
Lie.
A lie? Someone lies? Okay.
Yes?
People's energy fields.
Other people's energy fields.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes like you bump into somebody who just wants to be confrontational.
Yeah, someone who intentionally you feel is confrontational. What about family?
Oh, no, my family's perfect. That's my kid.
So family can't.
Family. My 28-year-old living at home.
Because, that's one of the ones, that, seems to, when you talk to people, that can throw you off, faster than anything. Because what happens with families? Do you have certain expectations? Oh yeah, do you have a history? Based on that history, have you created expectations? You've created, beliefs about how things are supposed to be. Well, they're supposed to respond a certain way to who I am, how I am, what I am, because we're blood, or we're kin, or whatever.
Patterns.
Yeah.
Patterns in families.
Anything else? Anybody have another one?
Being forced to make a decision.
Or being pressured.
Being pressured to make a decision. Throws you off your bliss, yeah? Yeah. So all this pretty much sounds like life.
Yeah.
Seriously. I can say for me, the thing that robs me of my peace is when my to-do list gets so long, I'm like, grrr, grrr, teach a class. It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, and it's been that way for a long time. I'll have a perception of myself. I perceive myself a certain way. We all do. And when I feel someone's not perceiving me the way I perceive me, it'll throw me off. It does. It'll throw me off.
The one thing, though, with what a lot of you said, whether it's criticism or people's energies or not feeling respected or whatever, the one clue is we have to stop taking it personally. Even the traffic.
Exactly.
We have to stop taking it personally. Because part of being in relationship is that that's their stuff. And that's not my stuff.
One of the greatest things that ever happened to me when I came out of the corporate business world and had a belief system that was very different than it is now in terms of a perception of who I am and what my purpose in existence is, was reading just a little something that Wayne Dyer had written. He said, "Other people's opinions of me are none of my business." I went, what? My mom and dad said, everybody's opinion of me is supposed to be my business and it's supposed to affect me. My grandmother told me that. If you have an opinion of me, it's got to affect me. I'm like, so it's not supposed to? Wait a minute, Wayne. I don't know what you're talking about here. And that was a big one. That was huge for me. I mean, I remember sitting there reading that, letting it sink in, reading it again, going back, sitting with it, coming back a few days later. How is that? How can that possibly be? And when I realized that it was so ingrained in me that other people's opinions of me not only affected me, they were driving my life. They were driving my perception of myself. And I realized I was so deep in this behavior, so deep into this belief, that it scared the living heck out of me. Because I said, I don't know that I know another way. I don't know that I know another way of perceiving myself and then relating to other people. It was truly one of the scariest moments of my life.
I think that especially with our parents drive our belief system about ourselves. And to be in a new earth relationship, you've got to be really clear, again, what's their stuff and what is it you want to perpetuate and what is it that you don't want to perpetuate. And so when we act in relationships, we are acting, and this is psychology, but it's, again, looking at from the soul's growth. You chose your family, you chose everyone for your growth. You chose your work right now for your growth. And you can say, I didn't choose so-and-so in my life. That was marriage or whatever it is. But the point of it is, you did. You did. Now, maybe you need to learn sacred boundaries, and maybe you need to learn that's their stuff. But the point of it is that to be in a new earth relationship, we've got to stop the automatic pilot that we're running. We've got to stop. We've got to say, that was my parents, or that's my culture. I had a conversation today, I don't know if she's here, but we had a conversation about the different cultures and how we're programmed. Italians, Jews, this girl was Indian, you know, all the different programming that we get as a culture. Irish, you know, all of it. There's no sacred that doesn't have that programming that they pass on, whether it's about men, about women, about relationships, about life, whatever. But in order for us to get to a place of authenticity, we have to say what it is we want to shave off and what it is we'll perpetuate.
You know, and these things get so deeply ingrained, and we lose sight of the fact that it's not, I believe in reincarnation. Don't know about you. But from my perspective, it's that I've not just this lifetime been developing these beliefs, behaviors, habits, concepts of myself, my relationship with others, but it's brought in from past lives. You know, which means it's not, at least for me, it's not a simple thing, pick up a book, read it, now go practice it, now go do it. I realize that I have to be far more conscious, far more present than I ever realized before. I have to be so much more attuned and aware in this moment, because I'm the one that also, in the Wayne Dyer, other people's opinions are none of my business concept, I also realize that I'm the creator of my reality. And within that, I'm the one who's up here looking at all of those relationships and beliefs and the rest of it and forming opinions about it. And so the great thing of it is that you have this opportunity to come together like this. And it's about really being very fully present to it and realizing how much of this has been ingrained in us, and how we have the opportunity right now to be able to move in the new earth, because there are so many people going that route, move in a new way of being able to move into relationship.
But the thing is about relationships, it's about your relationship with yourself. And this is where this is a new paradigm for most of us, because it was always about, well, this other person will complete me. This other person is, you know, blah, blah, blah. In order for me to prepare for the love that Gary is able to share with me, I had to spend years loving myself. And that's hard, because it goes against everything I was programmed. Because you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you've got to do this, you know, all of that. My mother, bless her heart, wouldn't come to the breakfast table with my dad. They had a wonderful relationship, 50-some years of marriage, almost 60 years of marriage. She wouldn't come to the table in the morning to have coffee without makeup on. I say, Mom, doesn't he love you for who you are? And if I didn't have makeup on, she would say, well, you better get some makeup on. I'm like, why? Can't I be me? Well, no, he might look at other women. Oh, okay. And I put the makeup on for all those years. And I'm just using that as an example, but that was the programming. You're not good enough the way you are. You must absolutely get it so that he's not going to look at anybody else but you. Well, that's way too much work. The point of it is, that's the belief system. So I needed to spend almost a decade in relationship with myself to be able to be in a full relationship with someone else. And that relationship with myself did not just mean Flossie, it meant the divine. And as I came into a full relationship, a love relationship, a romance with the divine, because I didn't have anybody, I just it was that divine romance. I cultivated and began to realize that I was lovable just the way I am. Just the way that I am. And so cultivating that allowed me to open the doors for a real authentic relationship. But let me tell you, deprogramming took a lot of work. And the society will tell you, you're not lovable the way you are. What are some of the things that society says? What? What does society tell us?
Too poor, too short, too tall, too
Yeah, you don't look, yeah, you don't, yeah, physical things.
You have to be a good girl.
Oh,
You have
the
to-
good girl. I wrote
There
the
you go.
book on the good girl. No, I did. Ask my daughter. No, that was it. That was it. I wanted to be that good little girl, but so you would be loved and all of that. And then I realized, you know, one of the things that Gary said to me after we met, 2 weeks after we met, he said to me, there's nothing you can do or say that will make me love you less. I'm like,
That was the look.
and so I tried really hard to prove him wrong.
Oh, she did.
I
She
said,
did.
I pulled out all my good guns. Well, let me show you this and this. And he just was unflinching. Now, had I not respected and honored him, he probably wouldn't have hung out. But the point of it is, he wouldn't have stopped loving me. So I recognized that if this man would allow me to be authentic to who I am, then it's the same way with God. It's the same way with the divine. There's nothing I can do or say that's going to make the divine love me less. Not if I killed somebody, not if I blah, 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 whatever. Right? That's huge.
Yeah, it's big. You know, and again, so, you know, we like to think about relationship as the romantic ones and all the rest of it, but it's first and foremost, we have to have a relationship, a balanced relationships with ourselves. I believe, we have to have a relationship with the divine, with, you know, it's kind of a cosmologic view of our relationship with all things, that we at least recognize it, that we have an awareness of it, that we have a desire to be in balance and harmony with that. But when we look at ourselves, we need to look at those things that pull us out of relationship with ourselves. We perceive ourselves a certain way. And again, that self-image is a big one. You know, we perceive ourselves one way, we perceive people perceiving ourselves another way. And then it just keeps going on and on and on and on. The big thing is that, you know, we perceive ourselves that we have a flaw or that we have something else and somebody's not going to like us. People aren't going to like us. So one thing I'd like you to do is pick up your pieces of paper and pen. Do you have some more paper and pen?
Kara has them.
And I want you to write this at the top of your piece of paper. Living up to my self-image. Living up to my self-image is more exhausting than I let on. Just sit with that a moment. Living up to my self-image is more exhausting than I let on. I don't know if you can relate to it or not. Come on. I mean, it was the hardest, toughest thing I did because first and foremost, I let everybody else create what that self-image was. It was all of these factors. Parents, grandparents, society, friends, belief systems, cultural, all the rest of it came up with, this is what I'm supposed to be. And then within that, I created this self-image that I felt I have to be that. I'm walking along, I gotta be that way. And what happens when I'm not? Because when I'm not, then all of a sudden, the house of cards starts crumbling. Because I believe now relationships are going to be affected, my relationship with myself, my relationship with others. So one of the things we'd like you to do is just take that thought. Living up to my self-image is more exhausting than I let on. And just take a moment, and this is kind of a take-home, but take a moment and just put a couple of words a couple of words that go along with that on what you feel your self-image is. When you sit there and you really go inside, what kind of an image do you feel that you project to yourself, to the outside? And just when it's fresh, it's kind of like getting a start with that. Because it's really something that if you take this and you spend some more time with it during your quiet time, wherever you're at home, outside, and really start getting a sense of how you perceive that self-image of yourself. It creates, when I started to do that and I started getting more honest and more honest and more honest with myself, I started realizing that I was trying to protect and defend something that wasn't really me. And so in relationships and my relationships with others, as soon as I'm trying to protect and defend this, but it wasn't really who I was. It wasn't that authentic me. The other thing I'd like you to do, and this I'll just share with you and you can just make a few notes. One of the things that happens with, I think everyone, most everyone, I won't say everyone, happened with me, is again within that self-image is a perception of my behaviors, habits, physicality, and the rest of it. And I may look at myself and say, well, you know what, I'm basically a selfish person. Or I'm not as kind as I should be to others. Because a lot of times we, deep inside, beyond, when we get beyond the outside layer, we become very critical of ourselves. And one of the things that happens with that is we'll lock into that being critical with ourselves, when in fact, if we look at the positive side of what we are, a behavior or a habit that we have, we start seeing a positive, we start seeing something that we perceived as a negative, but we all of a sudden start seeing positive traits within us that go along with it. So it's something that, you know, when you have the opportunity, look at that. Look at those things that sometimes we consider negatives about ourselves. And when you really sit with it, a lot of times we'll also see that there's a positive side to it. Sometimes someone says, well, I'm selfish. Well, are you selfish 100% of the time? Is there no time that you're actually kind or generous with people? And you really start finding out you actually are. You start finding out that a lot of times that perception of negatives within you, there's really a lot of positives that exist within you. Does that make sense? Feel good? Questions with that? Again, it's something, again, to start us really looking at how we step into our authenticity and who we are. I mean, you know, there's a Deepak Chopra talks about being comfortable with our ambiguity. You know, the fact of the matter is, you know, I'm an ambiguous being. I'm on a journey. We're pilgrims on this journey, and we're discovering, and I'm discovering. And there are times when I can have this wonderful stuff coming out of me, and there are times that it's not so wonderful that it's coming out of me. But it's realizing that's the totality of who I am, and I'm happy with that. I'm comfortable with that. I love that. Do I have things that I perceive within me that I say, I'd like to really work on that? Yeah, amen. But I can still accept who I am and accept the ambiguity within me. Because one of the things when you start looking at relationships that move beyond friendships or just associations or the rest of it, and you start moving into romance, there is nothing more attractive than someone who's comfortable with themselves. Think of that. That is, I mean, it's just, and that comes from studies and the rest of it. People that are comfortable with themselves. Others just go, oh, what is that? Because the fact of the matter is, we got our stuff. It's okay. I mean, it really is. Except Flossie. Right, honey? Right. But it's really recognizing it, looking at it, and saying that makes up the total me. And you know, whatever you have, that makes up the total you. Great. And that's why I could say to her, there isn't a thing that you could say, think, or do that would cause me to love you less. Because in that moment, there was this realization that for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, she is the soul that I have been connected with. And that coming together in this lifetime, it was about re-recognizing each other. And from that point forward, it had nothing to do with what you said, what you looked like, or any of the rest of it. Oh, can I disagree? Absolutely. Can I state my opinion, my belief? Well, of course, all that. But as far as the foundation of who she is in the relationship, well, nothing could affect that. Because it's founded, it's two souls really coming together and seeing each other.
Is it because you don't take it personally?
Impersonalizing is key, is key.
Because just having a thought like she's selfish separates you from her.
Yeah.
And it's a non-truth, because you could point out there are times
Yeah.
where you have to be selfish and there are times
Right.
you don't have to be.
And it is about impersonalizing things. It really is. Yeah, that is a huge part to it all. Things that other people do to us. It's like you just don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal. It's them. It's them. But, you know, also to go back to the reincarnation thing, you might be in a relationship with someone now or looking for that relationship, maybe that romantic relationship, whatever it is. And it might not be, it's always probably gonna, okay, edit that one out. It's going to,
Uh-oh, that's it, no more. I'm out of here.
you are usually picking up from where you left off. And that doesn't mean that the relationship might be the whole lifetime this time. It might be that you come together to learn something together as two souls, whether it's romantic or not. You might just be saying, okay, this lifetime, let's get together loyalty. Or this lifetime, let's get together forgiveness. So it doesn't mean that every lifetime is a whole lifetime.
Right.
And it doesn't serve, if not, it doesn't serve its purpose. But as you are evolving as a soul, and this is what I think is really important in relationships, is the higher your consciousness goes, the more you evolve, the less love is interrupted. Think about it. The higher your consciousness is, the less times love is interrupted. And honestly, I know we've been working on this many lifetimes, many, many lifetimes. So there are occasions where we kind of both go, "Arr!" But not as often as most people. And I think it's because we've done the work in other lifetimes. I don't think it's because, you know, of anything special. We just are doing the work.
And we'll stop. You know, and it's like when things happen where you feel something inside and you go, what is that? Maybe it's tension or whatever else. It's about stopping. Mm-hmm. Stopping. Because remember, where our energy goes, you know, we follow it. And so our energies go to things that we prioritize. And when there is something that you feel that maybe feels out of balance or the rest of it, it's about stopping so it doesn't get personal.
And regroup.
And it's about saying, this is more important. This is more important than going off and doing other things, because we create all these priorities in our mind and where our energy goes and our time. And it's like, no. There's nothing that's more important than that. So it's, you know, it's really stopping and being in the moment before my ego, whatever else, gets involved with it, starts to create drama, starts to create a story.
Defends.
He said, she said, you know. And it's like, no, you don't even go there. You know, because you just become very aware in that moment and stop.
And you know, all love, no matter what kind of relationship it is, love is just our individual search for spirit. That's all. We're all searching for spirit, and all we ever really want is to be seen as real. In a relationship, that's all you really want, is to be seen as real, authentic, be seen, you know, like in the Avatar, my favorite movie, I see you. That's all we're asking for. Not acceptance, not rejection, just to be seen. And all we really want, what we're searching for, even in relationships, is ultimately not this union, but this union. But this union becomes a reflection of this union. Do you see? And that's what New Earth relationship is. So that this becomes a reflection of that search for spirit. And it is unique. It is really unique because you are coming, you put your spiritual growth first. That's, or else you can do it the way your parents did it or your grandparents did it, and put your paycheck first. And put your, like, the one thing that pulls us off is if we don't get to spend enough time together. It just pulls us right off. We're as human as they come. Hi, bye. You know, that sort of thing. That's so detrimental. If that is so, it's like if you don't spend enough time in quiet meditation with God, and then the world comes and it goes. So we are searching for spirit in relationship, but we must prioritize. That's part of what New Earth relationship is.
You know, coming on this human physical journey is almost like the training wheels before we go ride a bike. You know, it's like we have these training wheels, which are the relationships we have with all others before we can join into relationship with the divine. And it really is about how we handle these relationships. How do we move into these relationships? Because it's experiential. It's like when I experience this, I go, oh, that just feels right. That feels the way balance and harmony should feel like to me. Now I have experience with that. I can say, oh, I can replicate that. I can say, oh, now when I create these experiences or interactions with others, I can see how that feels. And as I go through that experientially, it's preparing me in each step. Because, you know, we talk about seeing God in the eyes of others. We are. And within that, it's that relationship with them, with the God in each other. You know, that is preparing us for that divine union that will occur, has occurred. And we're off to that place. So, just to settle in what we've talked about a little bit up to this point. You know, so much about relationship, whether it's the romantic ones, which we're going to go into a little bit deeper in just a little bit, but it's kind of like relationships with all things is so much about us and our being comfortable with who we are, our being very aware of who we perceive ourselves to be, being comfortable with our foibles and all the rest of it, and impersonalizing these relationships in terms of not taking things personal that others say to us, do, the rest of it. It's like being in traffic. You know, it's always, we always remember we have a choice. And I go, whenever I do something and I go, oh, you know, I spent most of my life blaming it on everybody else. And I took that away from me when I realized I was responsible. I was responsible for creating my reality. I was responsible for my happiness, my sadness, and everything else. I'm like, oh, nuts. Why did I take that away? It felt so easy. But I was miserable. I was miserable because I was never me. I never knew who I was. Never came in contact with who I was. So we flow through all of these relationships with others in terms of getting experience with being who we are, and then we come to that place of more divine relationship.
But I think one more thing before we go into the divine romance is, I think for yourself, write down on your paper right now, and be very honest. Don't make yourself good or bad, right or wrong. What are you bringing into a relationship? And we'll say it's a romantic relationship, maybe it's a friendship, but what are the qualities? And list 5 positive qualities and 5 not so what we would consider positive, but they're still, it's just, maybe you're bringing fear. How many people are terrified of relationships? So 5 things that you say, okay, here's my best side. And 5, here's my other side, which complements that.